Welcome to YOUCANIC. Today here on YOUCANIC we have a 2016 Mazda CX-5. This has the 2.5 liter Skyactiv technology engine, and we are going to go over how you would remove and how the process of removing your tensioner. If you're replacing the tensioner because your tensioner is wearing out and you're replacing serpentine belts. If you're just doing just the belts, you don't really need to remove the full tensioner. But if you decide to remove the tensioner to replace it with a new one, we're going to go over the process of how you remove it. You also will need to be able to know how to remove it if you are doing the alternator, because the tensioner is in the way for you to be able to get one of the alternator bolts out. So it's going to be a process of getting that off. So you can't see super great from up here, but what we have is the tensioner right here that has a number 12 nut up top, a number 12 down there, and then we have a solid piece of cast that we can put a 17 millimeter on to be able to get the tension off, to then get the belt off, so then we can undo the two bolts that hold the tensioner in place. And we will do that through the wheel well. We remove the tire, and there's a cover on the wheel well, and then that way we can get from under to be able to do that portion of it. Just to note, you'll want to remember the way your belt is on here. So this belt would go on first, your water pump to the crank, and that is what they call a stretch belt. And then this one, we have our crank around our AC, around the alternator, and right down here through the tensioner. And this tensioner is held on by a bolt down here and a bolt up top here to the spring mechanism. And so we are going to loosen that tension to be able to get this belt off. Then we can remove the two bolts and get that off. Hopefully there is enough space that we are able to remove it completely without having to remove the motor mount or remove the bolts in the motor mount to move the engine up or down. But if we have to, we will go to that step too. So to start with, the vehicle has been raised up, supported on jack stands, and now we can go and work from the side where most of the action will happen for removal of the tensioner. So right down here there is a plastic cover. Once you remove the front right tire, there is this cover that is over this right here. It's just held on by 4 push pins. So I've removed those 4 push pins, and now we can have better access to the bolts and stuff that we need to undo this tensioner. Also, the under splash shield has been removed also. That is not completely necessary, just might give you a little bit more access to be able to reach your hands up on the other side of this crossbar. And also, we are in what would be the right wheel well. Removed the right tire, cart jacked up and supported on jack stands, and removed this your splash guard, as well as another shield that was right here of the splash guard and your fender well. We're looking up through here, and there is a bolt that's right here. Well, it's part of cast of the tensioner, and so I have a short stubby socket that I'm able to get on there. And now we'll take a wrench, it's a 17 millimeter wrench, and be able to twist it to be able to where we can get this belt off. It's a hydraulic function, so you have to just kind of press slowly and it will back off. So now we can remove this serpentine belt. Set that aside, and then we have our this is the new stretch belt, because we're going to have to put that one on first. So just cut the old one off, and then know that we have a new one to put on. So we'll put it around the crankshaft first, and be able to get it up and around. The top pulley. And what we'll want to use, you can use various things, but a zip tie will come in handy. And with that zip tie, we can hold this over. So we're going to keep our hands, we're going to rotate the crankshaft. So we got that stretch belt around there, and now we'll just need to retrieve the zip tie that we used to be able to help us guide and direct where that thing went. Okay. Now with that stretch belt on and all the ribs are where they're supposed to be, we can now go through the process of putting the other serpentine belt on. So we've got our new one. Going to compare it with the old one. So we're going to take our new belt that is comparable to the old one that came off in length and with the same amount of ribs. And so now, okay, so we're going to take this serpentine belt. You got to basically squeeze it to get it up through onto the alternator. Okay, so we've got it around the alternator, around the water pump, or not the water pump, around the AC compressor, and now we're going to come around the crankshaft, but we need to be able to loosen the undo the tension on the tensioner. Okay, so we get our $17mm on there. We had loosened the tension. We were able to get the belt wrapped around the pulleys, and all the ribs are inside the grooves where they need to be. And so that's how you would replace your serpentine belt and your stretch belt on your 2.5 Skyactiv motor on your Mazda CX-5 of a 2016. Thank you for watching YOUCANIC, where you could be the mechanic.